Ready, Johnny?
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Wow.
It's all right.
It's like a car cathedral.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Hold that thought, car cathedral.
This is a really nice place.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Yes, put my heart and soul into making sure my children have a good night's sleep in a very safe and secure environment.
Right. So the cars don't live at home?
No, exactly, yeah. No, at home it's a very unsafe environment to put my children because Michel's in, you know, sort of range. So you don't want to pull
Within range.
Well, you don't want to sort of come home with something that you haven't told her about because, you know, maybe there'd be a rolling pin coming my way. So okay. I house the toys here.
Yeah.
So, and this is only some of the toys. I have other toys, but some of the toys are here, so I can just keep them away.
So what, okay, first things first, I mean, we've just walked past a pleasantly muddy Raptor Ranger.
Is there any other way to own your Ranger Raptor?
Well, that's a good question.
If it was not muddy, it's not being used, is it? This has been the most fantastic work tool for me since I've had it. I've moved houses, I've moved businesses, I've moved everything in the back of this Ranger Raptor. It's been absolutely brilliant, and this is a Ford supplied vehicle.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. It's got the 10-speed Mustang gearbox, 2-litre diesel engine. It can tow a couple ton, so it's good for getting stuff around as well. And the load bed is just the most used thing in my life at the moment. That's why it's all muddy and dirty. It's because I use it.
So you've got that you use every day, and then you've got a Defender as well?
A Defender as well. So I know I'm being a bit greedy, but I do live in the countryside down bumpy, muddy roads. So the Defender is to counteract those days, especially when Mrs. B's around. I want her to feel nice. So I have a nice Defender for that.
Yeah.
But when I need to do something a bit more utilitarian, you know, picking up engines, gearboxes, you know, take this.
Yeah.
Take the Ranger Raptor.
This is cool.
It's great. Yeah, I love it. Brutal.
No, before I came to see you, I thought, like, if I said to you, make a list of all the cars you've owned,
yes,
I don't know if you would be able to do that.
No, I don't think there's enough paper. I've had quite a few cars in my time.
Yeah.
I do like my cars. I know nothing else, Johnny. You know, you've known me, what, 20 years? And in the 20 years you know me, I can't mow a lawn, can't put a shelf up.
Can't you?
I can build you a car, though. I just don't know much else.
Yeah.
I'm a car person.
I know you are.
That's
very
it.
much. And actually, although this is your sort of car cathedral, how many garages have you had, as in private garages, not work garages?
On the way to this garage.
Exactly. You traded yourself to this garage.
I've traded up. Yeah, I'm always trading up. Metaphorically, both on TV shows and in life. And yes, this started out as a, you know, 8-foot by 10-foot garage in South London in my past. And by just working hard and trading my way up, I've eventually ended up with this car cathedral.
Car cathedral.
Which I
you
very
can have
much
that.
like.
You can take it.
I'm going to take that, but this is probably not my last car cathedral. I feel that there's another bit of car cathedral coming after this.
Oh, crumbs.
Because there's not enough babies, is there? There's not enough children here.
Well, we'll talk about what's not here in a second.
Yes.
Let's talk about what's in the room, because I'll go around to this side, because this thing is very cool.
So this started life as a 1982 SC.
Yeah.
I bought this car off an American Airlines pilot whilst I was living in California. He was the most uninterested man who owned a Porsche I've ever met in my life. He just didn't want the car.
Really?
Just didn't want it. So much so he didn't really know what he had.
Okay.
So he sold it for a stupid price to me. But the car's full black leather, air conditioning, electric roof. When I got it, it was a standard bog SC.
Yeah.
Since I've had it, I've done a lot of work to it. I've modified both front and rear bumpers, Group 4 wheels.
The bumpers, they do look a bit different.
Well, yeah, it had the Impact American bumpers on it, like the accordion bumpers, a little bit like what's on the 912 here.
Yeah.
And you can see the indicators wrap all the way round.
Yeah.
So with this, I had a company design me the front and rear bumpers on this car, and I wanted them specifically to sit exactly the same height off the ground as the side seals. I Frenched in the indicators so they don't come all the way around the corner.
Yeah,
they're French and they're flush. We pulled the bumper back 25 mil into the body from a standard RS. They absolutely lost their
shit.
Can I say that?
Yeah.
They lost their shit with me when I kept insisting that we put a flat edge on it here.
A flat edge?
Well, because, you know, the SC, the G-body cars have a flat edge that comes round on the wheel arch.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to continue into the bumper, both front and rear.
Yeah.
And to mould that is very difficult. So, but we did it. We did it. And then we end up with something bespoke, unique.
Yeah.
It's not a 964, but it's kind of looking like a 964. It's not an RS, but it's looking a bit like an RS.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a Brewer design. And I absolutely love it. Did a lot of work to the engine as well. There's a guy in America called Andrew Gerard, who's a very clever engineer, used to work for Honda in their engineering department. And we took what was basically a standard SC. We didn't break the block open. But through lots of engineering, like individual throttle bodies, 964 plenums, Mk headers and muffler on the car, we managed to squeeze another 27% more power out of it. And it sounds like it's about to blow up in between every gear. It spins up this car to like 8,500 RPM.
Whoa.
It's nuts.
So how long have you had this?
Oh, I've had this car in my life now about 5 years now.
5 years.
5 years, yeah. I don't think I'll ever let this one go. It's my little baby. I've got another one of these as well.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got another 3 of these. I've got another SC in red, guards red again.
Yeah.
But a full flat-out SC with wow tail, 1984. So it's got the EFI engine, so it's a little bit more grown up than this. It's a 3.2 Carrera as well. But I'm keeping that as a Bogo standard car.
Yeah.
So I've got a standard one and I've got a hot rod one. And I've got a flat nose, 1975 flat nose Targa wide body.
Oh my God.
As well. That's it. Flashbow. Flashbow! Which I absolutely love.
You like your 911s?
I like a 911. Yeah, and I like a 912 as well. So
yeah, I noticed this is the 4-cylinder.
Yeah, the 4-cylinder version of the 911. Great story this. So Porsche, back in it would have been 1973, there was a fuel crisis around the world.
Yeah.
Porsche North America weren't selling any cars. 6-cylinder engines, quite juicy. Everyone wants to drive them hard. So they went back to the drawing board with the board and said, look, how can we get a car? They didn't have a car to get into market.
No.
How can we get a more frugal version of our 911 into the marketplace and sell?
Yeah.
Because we're just not selling cars at the minute. And some bright engineer at the factory said, well, we have 2,099 spare 4-cylinder fuel-injected engines that were left over from the Type 2 Volkswagen bus sitting on the shelf. So they said, well, let's take those engines, drop them into these cars, into a 911S, drop them into a 911S, badge it a 912E, which is what this car is. And they only made 2,099 in one model year, which is 1974, which is what this car is. It's looking dirty, this car, and I apologise. I apologise for my tardiness on this car. It's because it's just been to Le Mans Classic. Okay. And I like my cars being driven. So I lent this to a friend of mine who's driven it down to Le Mans Classic, driven it all the way there, driven it all the way back, smashed the mirror off whilst he did it,
Oh, that's nice.
and then just returned the car. Never washed it, never cleaned it, never repaired the mirror, just said cheers.
I like these because they are the original 912 was the earlier body.
Yes.
And then they just seem to come out of nowhere. But this thing, I had a look round it, but off camera. The interior's mint.
Yeah, you can drive it as well, this car. See, the difference between this and the 6-cylinder car is this is 100 pounds lighter over the rear axle. Yeah. So you can drive this car. That car I can only drive at 8 temps. This car I can drive at 10 temps. And you can mash every roundabout you come to, mash it around a roundabout, and you come out the other side smiling and gurning like a child because you can't believe the car made it round. Yeah. With the car screaming its lungs out. But you know, you're only doing about 50 miles an hour, but the car you feel like you're doing 150 in this car.
So 4-cylinder Porsche, 8-cylinder Porsche.
Yes, so some people may recognize this car. This is a Screen Star, actually. This was restored on Series 3 of Wheeler Dealers by myself and Ed China.
Series 3.
Series 3 of Wheeler Dealers. So along
what series are you on now?
20.
Wow.
Well, we're in the 20th year, Series 18, 20th year.
Yeah.
This was 2004, so good 18 years ago. This car appeared in my life, and me and Ed restored it. It got sold to a guy in Ireland, and then during lockdown, I wrote about some Wheeler Dealer cars on the website. And I wrote fondly about this car, and then the guy in Ireland contacted me and said, I'm getting divorced.
I've got that car.
I've got that car, do you want to buy it back? And I said, absolutely. So I bought it back, and I'll be honest with you, it's been a challenge having it back in my life because it needs repainting again. We did it, me and Ed. It's 18 years ago, so it could have another flick over again.
Yeah.
Mechanically, I've gone for it from nose to tail. I've put quite a few £1,000s into making sure mechanically it's fine.
Yeah.
But I've decided to put this one through the auction. So this one's going to get sold and recycled back into another car.
Oh, is it?
Yes, this is the one.
I like 928s.
I do like, especially an early 928. I think the early 928, without the nonsense on them, like the little boot spoiler and the lower splitter on the front, I think they're a much purer form.
Yeah.
And you speak to any good car designer out there, you know, the Ian Callums of this world and, you know, people like that. You talk to them about this car and they absolutely love the design of this car.
It's so out there still.
It's still out there, yeah, it's still
this
radical.
whole corner is still out there.
It's mental, this corner. In fact, Peter, what's his name, who worked at Ford and went on to Volvo, he's told me he stole this rear quarter for the Sierra Cosworth.
Oh, Horbury.
Horbury, yeah, Peter Horbury. He said he stole this rear window for the two-door Sierra Cosworth. That was where the idea of that come from.
Yeah. So I knew you'd had a couple of Porsches, but I didn't know how many Porsches.
Oh, well, I've got a few more. Yeah, so I've got the SC, and I've got the flat nose, and I've got a 550.
Have you?
Yeah, Spider. And I've also got a 1969 911, an early one, which is another hot rod that's an R Grouper car that's currently undergoing a massive restoration, including an Anstead engine. So the Porsche race team are doing the engine for me.
You're
it's
in deep.
Fabrication by Elsner, paintworker is by Hunziger. Engine by Andile. It's going to be competing in an event and driven by Chad McQueen. Steve McQueen's son is going to use it in an event.
Really?
Yes, yeah. I like to spread my cars around. I told you I like them being used. Get a bit of notoriety, you know?
Yeah.
Yes. When you're in front of an MG like this little MGA, do you bow, curtsy? What do you do? Salute?
You could go down on one knee.
You could go down on one knee. There is a protocol, isn't there, around one of these cars?
It's got such a low waistline.
It's beautiful, isn't it? So this is a really lovely story, this car, how it come into mine and my wife's life. When I went to California for the first time to make Wheeler Dealers, we arrived and looked at this workshop to hire to make the show. And we was there with the real estate agent who was showing us around, but there was an old guy hanging around in the background. And when the real estate agent had finished with us, the old guy said, I'm the owner. It's actually my building. And what are you going to be doing here? I'm inquisitive to know what you're doing. And I said, well, actually, we restore cars and we're going to bring a car restoration show here. And he said, what kind of cars? I said, well, you know, some American, but lots of British classics. I love my British classics. And he went, I've got a British classic. He said, I won it in a raffle, a charity raffle, in 1974.
What?
And he said, but now I'm in my 80s. It's been sat in the garage for the past 20 years. I'm in my 80s and my wife's ill and we can't get in and out of it. So I'm willing to let it go. And I said, well, I'll come round and see it. So that afternoon, me and Michelle, my lovely wife, we went round to see where he lived, and he lived in this beautiful house in the harbour in Huntington Beach, California. He opened up the garage door, and under 8 blankets, 8 very dusty blankets,
8,
was a primrose yellow 1959 MGA. This car. So I said, wow, that's amazing. And it was all complete. The whole car was complete. It was hand painted though, primrose yellow. A bit like the 912, funny enough.
Yes.
And I said, it's great. So what do you want to do with it? Thinking I'll put it in the show.
Yeah.
And he said, no, you can have it. And I went, I beg your pardon? He went, no, I don't want it. You can just have it.
What?
I said, well, I can't have it. You can't just give me a car. And he went, well, I don't need the money and I don't need the car. So just take it.
Wow.
And I said, well, do you have a charity? And he said, yes, I do have a charity. I said, tell me the name of your favourite charity and I'll make a $10,000 donation to your favourite charity. He went, oh, that's really kind of you, which I did.
Yeah.
I then got the car off him, shipped it back to England, and I used Moss Europe to supply some of the parts.
Yeah.
A wonderful paint shop in Oxford. I went and designed this paint myself. I made this whole paint code up myself. And I thought, let's do a proper restoration. So I went to RPS, Rally Preparation Services in Oxford, who are used to building endurance rally cars. And I thought, because I want to make this a driver, I really want to use this car. I don't want to stare at it.
Yeah.
It's a 59 MGA. It should be driven hard. Now, when it had the 1.6...
I noticed it's this 5-speed gearbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when it had the 1.6 4-pot in it, 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, the 4-speed gearbox, it would run out of steam. That would be the end of it. The engine needed rebuilding anyway. Gearbox was crunchy. So I decided to upgrade it. So it's got 1.8B engine, MGB, mated to a 5-speed MX-5 gearbox.
Oh, the MX-5 box.
And now this car drives like you cannot believe it. It sits on a motorway at 70. It will overtake somebody at 90. It goes from 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds. It's quick.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. The gearbox is like a little switch. It's beautiful. Everything works. And I use it a lot, this car. And if I'm not using it, I'm getting other people to use it.
It's immaculate.
It's beautiful. It's a lovely restoration. And it's really well used, this car. Stunning.
It's only a fucking train.
All the lads are in the back. They've all got their masks on. They're all tooled up, ready to go.
That video I took of you at the end of the NEC show in this with the window down, sharpening the tyres on the polished.
Do a little bit of a wheel spin.
I absolutely love that.
Well, this again, on Wheeler Dealers, I went to buy a Astra GTE, Mark 1 Astra GTE, off of a guy, Jason, up in Huddersfield or Hull, somewhere near there. And whilst I was there, this was in the background. It was red. It was a fire engine. And I see it in the background, and I desperately wanted it for myself because we have a merchandise shop, and I thought it'd be the perfect Wheeler Dealer merchandise shop.
Yeah.
So I kept pestering the guy, can I buy it, can I buy it? And he wouldn't sell it to me. Eventually, I pestered him so much, I think I just wore him down, and he said, okay, I'll let you have it. But it was just a shade too much money, what he wanted for it. But it had only done 10,500 miles because it's been housed in a German fire station since 1974.
Yeah.
Heated German fire station. Pushed out, washed, pushed back in.
Yeah.
And it's occasionally gone out to, squirt a cat out of the tree. But that's it. That's all it's ever done.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell my absolute love for this Transit van. I loved this. I genuinely fell in love with it.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking because there is a rule in Wheeler Dealers that we're not allowed to keep the cars. So I have to sell it. I have to genuinely sell the van. So I sold it to a van centre who put it on display. They just had it as a display piece. But as soon as the show went out, I was inundated from people online saying, you idiot, you should have kept it. You should have kept it. Why didn't you keep it? And I said, well, I'm not allowed to, and I would love to have kept it. I even thought about keeping it for Wheeler Dealers as our shop van, but we weren't even allowed to do that. So I contacted the van centre and they didn't want to sell it, but they offered to lend it to me to go and do the NEC. Yeah. And I said, can I lend it to do the NEC? And once I went down there and got the keys in my hand,
you were like, oh.
You ain't getting them back, son. This is staying with me. So I wrote out a sizable cheque with a profit for them. To get the van back. And I'm so pleased I did because that weekend, the sister van of this at the NEC, the sister van, identical to this almost in every way.
Ex-German fire.
Ex-German fire brigade, converted left-hand drive to right-hand drive, same colour, same everything as this. Went through Silverstone auctions at the weekend of the NEC and it sold for a world record £62,000.
Bloody hell. 62 grand.
So I was quite pleased with my purchase. I like cycling cars. I like them to be enjoyed, and I like cycling cars through my collection. Some I'm not ready to part with yet. I'm not ready to say goodbye.
Yeah. Defender.
Defender. I'm ready to say goodbye. This actually...
Are you ready to say goodbye to it? Because it's annoying.
It's sort of been gifted to me by a friend of mine. It's his vehicle. Technically, it's my friend's vehicle. But he said, you can have it. And he's gifted it to me.
Wow.
And it looks like it's been tapped all over with a ball pin hammer, doesn't it?
It's got cellulite.
It's got cellulite, but like a ball pin hammer's been tapped all the way around it. It was, I don't know, it's been in a farm field and people just abused it and bashed it.
Someone's been pecking it like an ostrich has been pecking it.
I think so, yes.
Or a woodpecker.
Yeah, so it is something like that. But it's just been on a big tour, this, actually. My friend flew over from California, Nick Slevin, his beautiful wife, Shannon. It's technically their vehicle. They took it and went to Scotland, Ireland, in this at sort of 60 miles an hour. They actually drove to Amsterdam as well to go and visit his daughter in university. And they drove it around, and then Nick just drops it back on my toes and said, here's my vehicle, mate. Enjoy it. I might want to borrow it again one day. So it's sort of been gifted to me, which is lovely.
Yeah.
But Nick, it's a pain in the arse now because I can't sell it because technically it's not mine to sell.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything with it. It's just sort of a thing that I'm housing.
I like it, TD5.
Yeah, TD5, I mean, it's a great vehicle. Honestly, it's really handy if I need to tow something or move something around.
Yeah.
This is the one to get it out of the ditch, you know, this is the one that I'll use. Right, driving this around, right, some people, when you're driving one of these around, you can sort of bash people out of the way because, you know, they're scared, it's intimidating.
Well, it's got a lot of dents on it, yeah.
So people tend to be abusive towards me sometimes when I'm driving it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I come to work here in my car cathedral, I feel like the abuse needs to continue.
Right, okay.
Right, so I have this little speaker here, so I like to get the speaker to just give me some abuse.
Okay.
So Alexa, say 100, 100, 100, 100 in Welsh.
100, 100, 100, 100 in Welsh is cunt, 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 cunt.
See, I feel right at home now. That's exactly how I get up when I'm driving that on the roads around Warwickshire. That's what I hear a lot of. I hear a lot of that. Right, so this is Jonny Smith. Welcome to my dream car.
Okay.
So people often ask me and you, they're going to say, what's your favourite car of all time?
Yeah.
They expect me and you, because we're car people on TV, they expect me and you to say Ferrari 250 GTO. They're expecting us to say that.
McLaren F1, blah,
McLaren
blah, blah.
F1, they're expecting. But I always say 1964 Mini Cooper S. Because there is something so connected about this car and the person. You become one when you're driving it. It's just insane. Plus, there is something naughty about driving an early Mini, especially
Naughty.
a Cooper S. There's something naughty about it. It's like, is this legal? Am I doing, am I not breaking laws here?
Yeah.
When you attack a corner or roundabout at ridiculous speeds and you just swing round it in one of these, you think you've just broken several laws, but you haven't. You've just got a really good connected little car that makes you feel alive. I found
nice.
it's beautiful. I found this at a farmer's auction.
An agricultural?
An agricultural auction. I found this. It was red with a white top on it. We discovered the original colour was almond green.
It's one of my favourite Mini colours.
Yeah, we discovered it was the original colour. We also discovered that my car had once been reshelled and it had a racing history. And it had been reshelled with an 850 shell. So I did this story about, I put it together in conjunction with Mini Magazine and British Motor Heritage and Andy Ace Harrison, who's one of the country's, if not the world's finest Mini restorers. I set about a story trying to discover where is the soul of a car? Is the soul of a car in its body? Is it in its chassis? Or is the soul of a car in the machinery that makes it?
Okay.
So I went to British Motor Heritage and I got them to make me a new body. And the correct 1964 Cooper S, exactly the same rivet marks, exactly the same weld marks. I wanted it identical. So they built it on the 1959 jigs, the same jigs that it would have been built on originally. together with people that worked those machines way back in the 1960s. So these blokes are still working at British Motor Heritage. They're in their 70s, some of them are in their 80s, and they're still putting these cars together. And I discovered through the process that the soul of a car like this lies within the people that put the car together, not necessarily the car itself. The result of it is, and the result of the story is, that I ended up with a 1964 2021 brand new Mini Cooper S.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
amazing, isn't it? It's very cool.
unbelievable, this car. I
Isn't
mean,
it?
it's just flawless.
It looks
It's flawless.
Great. So yeah, big contrasts between the little Mini and the big Taycan. So it's an EV.
Yeah, so I needed to dip my toes into the EV market. As you know, I'm a Porsche man. I personally think this is the best electric car out there. Lots of other people agree. So I stumped up and went for one of these. I actually ordered, quite interestingly, I ordered the Turbo S.
Okay.
Is what I ordered. But I went to the dealership because they had a demonstrator and it was a 4S. And I went and drove this 4S up the road, and it was on a single 2-lane carriageway, and there was a truck in front of me doing 59 miles an hour, and I waited for a gap in the road, legal to overtake with the arrows. I was in economy mode, driving the Taycan. I put my foot down to overtake the truck, and by the time I passed the truck and was pulling back in, I gazed down at the speedo. So I went, "What the is that? That's ridiculous." So I turned the car around, drove straight back to the dealer, and I said, "Cancel my Turbo S." And he went, "What? Why?" I said, "I don't need it. I'll take one of these instead and save the money."
Yeah.
But rather bizarrely,
I noticed this was the 4S, and I actually think this is probably the best
one.
Taycan.
Well, in
everyone
fact,
orders a Turbo S. You don't need it.
well, I'm going to explain. It's the most ridiculous pricing policy on the planet.
Yeah.
So Porsche will sell you this car, but for 30 grand more, have a turbo. Or for 50 grand more, have a Turbo S. But they are identical cars. They're no different. It looks exactly the same. It's not as if it's got gills on the side or carbon fibre bits. They're not. They're exactly the same. So it's only a badge. And then the bit that you're paying the 50 grand for is ones and zeros. It's a computer. I've got the same engine, the same battery. I've gone for the high power battery, cost 5 grand more. So you get for 5 grand more the same battery you get in the Turbo S, but you haven't spent the Turbo S money. And some boffin has just limited your car half a second slower to 60 and 5 mile an hour slower at top speed. And that's just done by ones and zeros, isn't it?
Well,
and you save 50 grand. So with the money I saved, I managed to get the turbo bumper on it with the bigger gills. I put the side skirts on it and the aero kit. Panoramic roof, and I spent it on big sound system, some toys. Inside the car to make it a bit more comfortable.
I think that's a good idea. It's a wise idea.
No, I absolutely love it. I'll tell you what I love it for, Johnny. I have a very complicated life. I've got a car business. I've got a TV show. I'm a producer of that show. I'm the patron of a couple of charities. I've got a house that I'm renovating. I'm a very busy man, constantly busy. And this becomes that 2-hour journey to work and back from work. This becomes my office. It's just brilliant for connectivity. It's quiet. I can get so much done inside the car, and I love that. I love the fact that I can lock myself. It's like sitting on the toilet. It's that moment alone. I can have my moment alone in this car, be connected, and just talk to people and get stuff done. I just like getting stuff done.
You're not anti-EV then? You're not.
No, not at all. You
don't find it threatening to the rest of us?
Absolutely not. We need to embrace whatever future we can have, as long as it's getting us moving on 4 wheels. I like electric classics. I like classics. I like EVs. I think there's a space for everything, but this has definitely got to be our future.
This has been a really interesting garage tour. I'm going to finish by saying, Mike, what's not in here that you own right now?
Well, I've told you about a few Porsches.
You told me about a line of Porsches, yeah.
Well, but there's a couple of other things that are really nice, but Mrs. B might be listening.
Do you still squirrel?
Of course I do. Of course I do. You can't say that. Oh, I own that. Look, Motocompo.
Oh yeah, forgot.
Yeah,
to
look at
say
that.
about
Look at
the
this. How
compo.
cool is this? Look.
Yeah.
Motocompo. Right. So I bought that from a guy that imports them in from Japan.
I love those.
They're brilliant, aren't they? It's a trunk bike. It come with a Honda Civic in Japan. When you bought a Honda Civic, you got one of those in the boot of it.
The City Turbo.
The
or
City Turbo, yes. And then that was in the boot. You lifted it out of the boot, you folded up the handlebars and popped up the saddle,
Yeah.
and then you could commute to work. And it was just bloody wicked. It runs, drives, it's lovely.
I had one, and my mate hounded me for it, like you did with the geezer with the
Yeah.
Transit, and I eventually sold it, and I regret it because it was a yellow one, and I really loved it.
Somebody offered me $6,000 for that.
Get out.
No, they did. They said, I'll give you $6,000 for it. And I went, wow, I actually like staring at it. And so yeah, I think it's nice up there.
You don't commute in it then?
No, it'd be funny. I'd like to go down the M40
With a
on the motor
with a cape.
With a cape. Just fantastic. I've had poops bigger than that, honestly.
I really thank you, Mike.
It's a pleasure.
I really hope you've enjoyed this little garage tour of Mr. Brewer's car cathedral. It's not a garage. If you want to look at some of the other tours I've done, I'll put a link somewhere above our heads. If you want to subscribe and you haven't already, I don't know what you're thinking, but you should do it. Comment below. Which is your favourite car of Mike's? Or which one has he sold that you wished he hadn't and he should have kept it, etc.?
Yes, the Lotus Cortina was pretty special.
Sold it?
The SM, yeah, sold that. Ferrari 360 was nice. Sold that.
We're here with the brown chairs in the car cathedral, owned by this man, Mr. Mike Brewer, the car TV man.
Well, that's nice. I think there's plenty of car TV men out there. I'm just one of them.
You're one of the veterans.
That makes me sound really
I'm pretty sorry.
That's, you know, there's a